People know about caloric deficits. A lot of people understand calories in versus calories out. A lot of us are familiar with the importance of movement and nutrition. And if you haven't started there, that's where I encourage you to start because that is going to make the biggest difference. If your goals are to lose weight, tone up, lean out, build strength, nutrition is going to make a huge difference. But if we work backwards from that, your mindset and headspace is going to make an even bigger difference. So the mentality that you take to everything really determines the outcome. And I think that goes for everything in life. That's the same for work, that's the same for relationships, that's the same for career and family and what have you. The mentality and attitude that you bring to the table really determines the outcome in a lot of ways. So that's worth highlighting. I do feel the challenges that people encounter. I feel the frustration of people who have tried to lose weight a number of times, who have tried a lot of different diets, a lot of different approaches, and they're not seeing the shifts they think they should see. They're not seeing the shifts that they want to see. And there may be some reasons why. And this is why doing blood work is so important because blood work doesn't lie. If you are chronically deficient in a nutrient, then any other function of the body is going to be compromised. The body cannot operate at optimal levels if a key nutrient is missing, especially if it's chronically missing. So, one surprising reason why people may find it tough to lose weight and continue to lose weight is if they are low in iron. You've probably heard me talk about iron before. I did a great podcast with Dr. Daraj from Iron Sweets / Medical Integrative Integrative Medical Center here in Singapore, who is an absolute expert on all things related to iron. By composition, blood is 50% iron, and you could very well be low in iron. Every single woman I've worked with who I've encouraged to have their iron levels tested, I think all but one have been low. And I work with a lot of women, and I have been doing this for a while. So that is an absolute sign that you need to be tested. Now, when I tell you this, it's really important you get tested for stored iron, which we refer to as ferritin. Ferritin, I believe, is how you spell it. So ferritin. Now, your red blood cell count may look healthy. Your serum iron, which is what is typically tested, may look healthy. However, your ferritin, your stored iron, may be low. And if that is the case, it can lead to symptoms such as breathlessness. It can make it hard to recover from infections. It can lead to, in severe cases, migraines, dizzy spells during exercise or just in general, feeling giddy, feeling fatigued, out of breath, like you have brain fog. Even with the best night's sleep, you still feel tired. And these symptoms go unnoticed for 5 to 10 years typically because we attribute these symptoms to life. I mean, life is becoming increasingly fast paced when you have a lot of priorities such as children and travel and we think, of course I'm going to be exhausted. I mean, look at my schedule, look at my priorities. How could I not be exhausted? How could I not be tired? And that is completely understandable, though in a lot of instances, if not most, it is due to insufficient stored iron. And even if you eat red meat, which we know to be naturally iron rich, so myself, perfect example, you can still be low. Now, how do you know if you're low? Well, we start to see symptoms from 80, a reading of 80 and below. So ideally, our levels are as close to 100 as possible. And we are technically anemic from 30 and below. I want to say I was about 23, 25 when I got tested December last year. and I had an infusion to treat that. An infusion typically lasts 12 to 18 months. The positive effects will last 12 to 18 months before you need to redo that. The benefit of the infusion is it bypasses digestion. Oral tablets, so iron oral tablets, are very poorly digested, very poorly absorbed, and you need to take them for at least 3 months before you see any positive effect. So, in saying that, chronically low iron can start to mimic hypothyroidism, which could be another reason why you're not seeing the change that you want to see or think you should see based on your efforts in the gym and in the kitchen. If you haven't had your thyroid tested, it is absolutely worth having that tested. And typically, hypothyroidism, so underactive thyroid, makes it a bit more challenging to see those changes. Though, in saying that, I have worked with many women who have hypothyroidism, who have Hashimoto's, which is a chronic condition where the thyroid attacks itself, so it's an autoimmune condition. And one example of success I've had is a lady who's lost 10 kilograms in working with me, and she has Hashimoto's. So it's not a life sentence, so to speak. It doesn't mean it's impossible to lose weight. It's just perhaps a little slower. So number one reason why you may not be seeing weight loss is because you may be low in iron. Now, of course, with breathlessness and fatigue, it's harder to train hard. It's harder to have the energy to push yourself in the gym. And we need those efforts to build muscle. Okay. We're not going to build muscle if we're just turning up and doing light weights and staying in our comfort zone, but then it's very hard to push ourselves to that level of discomfort where we do start to build muscle if you are always out of breath and always feeling tired. So having your iron tested is going to be super helpful. It's also going to improve your recovery. One thing I noticed since the infusion is my spine feels 1,000 times better. I used to have chronic tightness in my spine, and no matter how many times I cracked it and stretched it, it just always felt super, super tight. And since the infusion, I've noticed my back feels almost brand new, not quite, but almost brand new. It certainly feels a ton better. My recovery is a lot better. I feel less out of breath, so my aerobic capacity has improved. And a lot of people just think they have bad cardio. They just need to do more cardio. And that is all well and good, though if you have low ferritin, there's no real upside to pushing yourself harder to do more cardio, especially running, because running heel strike breaks up ferritin. So having your heel hit the pavement time and time again is going to accelerate that breakdown of ferritin. And so here you are thinking, I just need to do more cardio so I can be aerobically better. And you're just using your ferritin even faster and you are already deficient. So it's very much a net positive result, if that makes sense. So moral of the story, get yourself tested for ferritin. Blood tests by default will usually test your red blood cell count, your red blood cell volume, size, and your serum iron, and that's great, but serum iron really doesn't reveal much and is going to be influenced by what you consume 48 hours or so before the test. So if you have a juicy steak tonight and you have your iron tested tomorrow, of course your serum iron is going to be elevated because you've just eaten iron-rich food in the form of a steak. So nice number to look at, but very, very useless in most instances. Get your ferritin tested, which is your stored iron. If that is under 80, keep your eyes peeled for symptoms. And if your levels are 60 and below, I would consider getting an infusion. You need to know that 30 and under, by definition, is considered to be anemic. And unless you get an infusion, or unless you start magically absorbing all of the iron from every bit of red meat you can get your hands on, that is not going to solve itself. Okay, you do in fact need to get that addressed sooner rather than later. You'll probably find everything comes 100 times easier once you have that addressed. And I noticed improvements that day. Within 2 hours after my infusion, I felt like a brand new human being. So that is item number one. Item number 2 is stress. Now, when you are stressed, your body's ability to deal with inflammation is hindered, and stress in and of itself produces inflammation. So the body produces inflammation as a byproduct to a lot of things, to environment pollution, to consuming foods that you don't digest well, for example, dairy, for example, gluten. Your body produces stress as a byproduct to exercise. That's good. We need that to an extent. We produced inflammation as a result of injury. Again, there is utility in that. That is important in the healing process. Chronically elevated stress levels, chronically elevated cortisol levels can make it certainly a lot more challenging to lose weight. Now, I should say this while it comes to my mind. If you're chronically in a caloric surplus, so consuming more calories than what you burn, that too is a source of stress on the body. So, that's worth mentioning. If you're chronically eating more energy than what you need, that is going to stress your body out, okay? Which doesn't help if you are a stress eater, so I'm sorry, but you kind of have to, have a reality check with yourself as well. Stress, I'll give you a great example. When I have seen women leave relationships that were no longer serving them, they have easily shed 1 to 2 kilograms. And a lot of that has come down to fluid retention, water retention, and again, the body just being able to return to its normal homeostasis in terms of where our hormones usually sit. When you give the body a chance to process and lower its frequency, it's quite amazing what progress we can start to see. But if you're chronically under eating, overeating, undersleeping, okay, I feel judged. I just judged myself. If you're chronically undersleeping, under recovering, working 3 jobs and you are one person in a relationship that no longer serves you, those elevated stress levels catch up with you at some point. That can certainly slow down the body's ability to regulate all that it needs to regulate, and of course make it harder for the body to lose weight, especially sleep, because we know sleep is connected with your hunger and satiety hormones, leptin and ghrelin. So if you are not sleeping well because something's on your mind, because you are stressed, that because you're consuming caffeine at 3 or 4 p.m. to stay awake, to do a job that you hate, or to do the job of 3 people when you are one person, then we can only expect sleep to be hindered. And when sleep is hindered, we do become stressed. And our leptin and ghrelin, our hunger and satiety hormones, are thrown off. And that, again, just makes it more challenging to make good, quote unquote, good, healthy, nutritional decisions. And that, of course, is only going to slow down the weight loss process. So that is worth factoring in. Personally, I lost like 1.5 kilos after leaving my previous relationship, which was almost 11 years long, 11 years in duration. So leaving that relationship and marriage allowed me to shift that weight because my stress levels could finally come down. I could finally breathe and be myself and be true to myself. And that was something that I was suppressing for a long time. So personal share there. And I've seen this in the women I work with too. I've seen women drop 1 to 3% body fat in a month after leaving a relationship that just was not doing it for them. They've even put on weight, and then when they leave the relationship, like boom, it just comes off because stress levels come down. And we don't really give enough credit to how stress negatively impacts our body composition and all the other things. I mean, let's not open that can of worms, but of course, it doesn't help when the body has chronic inflammation to deal with. And having had a chronic inflammatory condition myself, I can tell you it's really not fun. It's really not good, and it really does not help you to lose weight, let alone body fat. On to the next point, entering foods in my fitness pal. I hate my fitness pal. I will happily tell you why. Anyone can add anything to that database, which is a double-edged sword. If you know what you're doing, it's excellent. Most people, however, have no freaking clue what they're doing. And I have seen some really hideous food diary entries where people have entered foods such as salmon, MyFitnessPal has said 0 grams of fat. This person thinks they're having a 200-calorie meal, but actually it's more like 550, if not 600 calories. That is a huge difference, my friends. That is a huge difference. And that is just one item of food. If you're entering 16, 20, 25 different items into MyFitnessPal and they're all incorrect, which there's a fair chance they're all going to be incorrect, that is going to accumulate, of course, over a day, over a week, over a month, and what have you. So, super important that your food logging is accurate in the sense that you are actually selecting the right food for what you are eating. And this is why I prefer Chronometer. CRON for Nigeria, OM for Madagascar, ETER, I believe is the correct spelling. Chronometer, that's the platform I use with my clients, because you have to have a food, the macros essentially have to be verified by a government body in order for them to be added to the Chronometer database itself. So you don't have just random people adding whatever they like, thinking that they're doing the world a favor, or thinking that, hey, this is, so easy. This is, super convenient to just plug and play whatever food I have. So many data entry problems occur with MyFitnessPal. So you can easily put 9 instead of 19, okay? And I'm sure I have done that before. But again, it makes a big difference when the food that you select is accurate. A lot of the time on MyFitnessPal, it's not. It's not your job to know what to look for. Of course, when I look at things, I can look at it a little differently. And often what I see is not so accurate. So having a level of accuracy in your food logging, of course, makes a huge difference. Making sure that you're selecting the right portion. So are you going 1 ounce or 100 grams, 1 tablespoon, or 100 milligrams, all as examples. A lot of foods that don't get entered are liquids. So 500 calorie smoothies with 2 bananas, 5 tablespoons of peanut butter, half a jar of honey, and a partridge in a pear tree. Look, 500, 600 calories later, that really adds up over the course of a day, in a week, in a month. And so often people are consuming more calories than they think, usually by at least 20%. So my advice to my clients when they're eating out and when they're logging food is always add 20% more than what you think you're consuming, because chances are that's going to be more accurate than what you think you're consuming. You have to understand food logging is a skill, and you don't develop skills overnight. Think about how long it took you to learn how to walk. You should expect a similar, time frame on learning how to do any other skill, whether it's riding a bike, whether it's learning French, whether it's learning how to log food. I mean, you got to give it at least 2 years before you're somewhat proficient. And I mean somewhat. You're no expert at logging food after 2 consistent years. You have some level of proficiency, okay? So that is worth remembering. A lot of foods do not get logged. There's the odd scoop of, peanut butter as you're putting it on your toast and you have just an extra spoonful to yourself. There's the extra handful of nuts, extra handful of seeds, which are very fat dense, which means they're very calorie dense. That accumulates. The extra dollop of mayonnaise, I say that being a bit of a mayonnaise fan. So the other surprising reason, which is not surprising to me, but might be surprising to you, is you're not correctly logging your food. The accuracy is not there. The accuracy in terms of what you've selected as the food item, the accuracy in terms of the portion, and then all the other handfuls and spoonfuls and bites of food in between your meals and snacks adds up. So, if that becomes an extra 500 calories a day, that's an extra meal. That over the course of a week is an extra 3,500 calories. You think your body doesn't notice that? It does, my friends. It does. That is worth logging. And so when in doubt, add 20% on top of what you think, because chances are you will under report by 20%. Always remember your oils when you're eating out. Fat is flavor, and that's why restaurants and cafes like to add extra fat, use more cooking oil, use more cheese. So where the opportunity is there to have cheese on the side, sour cream on the side, or be light-handed on the oil, that is always my preference. Dressings on the side is my go-to. Just some hot tips there for those of you trying to lose weight, lean up, tone out, sculpt up, whatever that means. Another reason is people may be in a caloric deficit Monday through to Thursday, Friday lunchtime, and then come Friday lunchtime or the weekend, suddenly they are in so much of a surplus, it counteracts the deficit they created Monday through to Friday. So, for example, if they were in a deficit of, let's say, 300 calories Monday through to Friday, so that's 5 times 3, 5 days of 300 calories. That's 1,500 calorie deficit by the end of Friday. But over Saturday and Sunday, they end up having an extra 750 calories on Saturday and Sunday. They end up being net even. They've kind of canceled out that effort, and they sit there and like, I just can't seem to lose weight. I just can't shift the kilos. You're probably not being real with yourself about how much alcohol you're drinking, first of all. And I say that with as much kindness as I can muster. Whenever someone tells me they had 4 standard drinks, I know it was 6. They just don't want to say 6 because it sounds bad. But it's true. I mean, just you have to be fucking real with yourself, okay? Like, sorry, not sorry. If you want results, you're going to have to look in the mirror and be like, am I being real with myself? No. Okay, let's be real with ourselves. How many drinks was it? If you think it was 4, it was probably 6. It's the same with food. We underreport by 20%. So if you had 4 drinks, likely it was 6. If you think you had 8, it was probably 11. That's just how people are, okay? So first of all, you probably under realize, is that a word? You probably consume 20%, if not more, alcohol than what you think you consume. So alcohol being 7 calories per gram. Also, we've talked about the interference that alcohol has with your body's ability to metabolize, because your body doesn't give a shit if you had really healthy, nutritious food. If you consume alcohol, your body's first priority is to get rid of alcohol. It doesn't care about all the nutrients or the iron from the steak or the folate and the vitamin K from the spinach. It doesn't care because you have poison in you. So your body's first priority when you consume alcohol is to get rid of the alcohol. Then whatever remains, it will do something with, but not a whole lot. So your body's conundrum with alcohol, shall we say, is not just the empty calories, which everyone, is the first place that everyone's mind goes to is, oh, empty calories. Yeah, and it totally recalibrates how your body metabolizes everything else that you eat. And that is such a hindrance to progress because, again, all those vitamins and minerals that you have from the nutritious food that you have kind of goes to waste. I don't like saying goes to waste because I try not to talk in extremes, but it kind of gets undone when combined with alcohol. So that's worth mentioning. Yeah. So you've probably under-recognized how much alcohol you are consuming. Chances are you've created a nice caloric deficit Monday through to Friday, and then you're consuming all those calories on Saturday and Sunday in the form of alcohol, in the form of eating out. If you eat out breakfast and lunch and dinner, 2 days, and that's 6 meals out. It's going to be very easy to consume that deficit worth of calories over 2 days if you're eating out and drinking out. It just is. Again, restaurants don't make food for the fun of you having nutritious food. They make food that tastes delicious so you go back. That's what they need to be remembered for, and I can't blame them for that. That's just business. So you need to understand that, right? Chances are you're not really in a deficit if you look at a week's worth of eating. And if you take that data, chances are it's not really getting you or keeping you in a deficit. Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday, perhaps. Friday, Saturday, Sunday is where you need to really get your eyes on the prize and really be real with yourself and see where you could do better. That's just what I've noticed in people's eating patterns. And so with all of this irregularity, it's hard for the body to have homeostasis. And the body really likes homeostasis because that's what allows the body to feel safe and a safe body moves well, and a safe body is going to be a body that kind of is more cooperative, that works more with you and allows you to lose weight, because weight loss is not linear. Fat loss is not linear, of course. What we tend to see is people, I want to say plateau, but I also don't want to say plateau. I want to say plateau because most people understand the meaning of the word. But when is a plateau, and when is your body just getting used to this way of eating and this way of exercising? I think if you've seen no change for 8 consecutive weeks, and if you've been consistent with your efforts in terms of nutrition and fitness for 8 weeks and not much has changed, then I would perhaps be inclined to say that could be a plateau. But of course, nuance and context is everything. People are very quick to be like, oh, nothing's changed. Oh my God, this is the story of my life. Kid you not. People will get on the scales, they'll lose half a kilo, 1.5 kilos, and they'll say to me, oh my God, nothing's changed. I'm sorry, what? Did you not just see that the number's gone down since last time? Are you blind? Or are you like what? Which is another reason why people don't see change. We'll get to that later. So chances are your inconsistency is making it really hard for your body to feel safe enough to lose weight, because your body needs predictability. It needs to know it's going to get X, Y, and Z nutrients at A, B, and C time. That is conducive to your body being able to do all that it needs to do on a day-to-day basis. Cognitive performance and function, physical performance and function, mood regulation, emotional regulation and control, etc., etc., etc. Your body functions well when it knows it's going to get however many liters of water in a day, however many steps in a day, however much downtime, however much sunlight, however much social interaction, how much physical activity. Your body likes predictability. It likes repeated patterns, because that contributes to predictability. It then knows how much activity can let you do based on how much energy you give it. Energy in terms of calories, energy in terms of sunlight, energy in terms of hydration, energy in terms of social interaction. That's what bodies like. And so when you're inconsistent, your body goes, screw you, motherfucker. I ain't playing along because I don't know when I'm going to get the nutrients I need to do what you're asking me to do. And rightly so, that's a form of stress on the body. And what did we say about stress earlier? Stress can hinder physical changes. It can interfere negatively with seeing a change in your body composition. So it's in your best interest to eat at regular times. And I mean regular intervals, such as, 3 to 5 hours apart, but also the same time each day. Your body doesn't like being kept up until 2 a.m. on a Saturday or 2 a.m. on a Sunday and then getting social jet lag. It doesn't like eating at 11 p.m. and then trying to sleep at midnight. It doesn't like that. So stop being an asshole to your body and stop wondering why you're not seeing changes. You don't deserve to see changes because you ain't treating your body very well. What do you expect? You're an asshole towards your body and you want your body to play along? Like, you are taking your health for granted and you're being just straight up asshole to yourself. So if I were your body, I probably wouldn't play along if that's how you were treating me. You want to treat your body how you would treat your best friend. Be nice to it. Show it some love and give it what it needs. And chances are you'll get the same back from it. It's kind of like a two-way street, But a lot of people treat their body like it's just a one-way street. Like, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, and my body should play along with me. No, friend. That's not how this shit works, okay? So, any questions, by the way, just put them in the comment section. I'm just ranting. Hope you enjoy rant. I love a rant. Could do it for days, obviously. That's why I have a podcast. So any questions, please just drop them in the comment section. And if you want a copy of this, once this is a podcast, let me know. I'll send it your way. But that is another surprising for you, not surprising for me, reason why you may not be seeing change. It's because your body has no sense of predictability. It has no sense of homeostasis and equilibrium. It has no sense of when it's going to get the nutrients it needs and when. And that can be awfully confusing and challenging for your body to ration its use of energy. Again, if you're asking your body to do more with less or do more with less predictability, that is a source of stress. You have to mitigate that somehow by being regular with the time you wake up, the time you go to sleep, regular with when you eat in terms of intervals 3, 4, 5 hours apart, whatever feels good for you, but there should be some predictability there in terms of the nutrients you get. Are you always getting more or less 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of what you weigh per day? You've heard me say that a million times. If you've been here before, if you haven't, welcome. 1.5 grams per kilo of what you weigh per day is how much protein you need. If you're not getting that, don't tell me that you are having trouble getting lean and toned and sculpted. I'm not surprised. That is the first thing you need to do. 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of what you weigh per day. For example, if you weigh 60 kilograms, that's 90 grams of actual protein a day, not 90 grams of chicken breast, 90 grams of actual protein. Until you're consistently getting that, don't complain about not losing weight. You have no leg to stand on, my friend. So, predictability with your nutrients, predictability with your movement, your activity levels, sunlight exposure, bedtime, wake up time, hydration. They're just fundamentals that you should be taking off your list every single day. And if you're not, that should be something that you're working towards. Then your body will be like, oh, cool, thank you. I know what to expect now. Then, if you're consistent, you'll start to see some changes. But again, it's not linear. The body tends to hover. Then when it feels good, it feels safe, it knows how to use what it's getting when, it knows how to allocate and ration all those resources and nutrients, then we'll see a drop in weight. And then we seem to hover, and then we drop again. And we hover for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then we drop again. A lot of people quit before they see the drop because they think, I ate 3 salads this week, I should lose 10 kilos, which is absolute complete and utter bullshit. But anyway, you already knew that. So moving on from there, look, only a few more points to go. Intermittent fasting, yeah, you're losing muscle, not fat. So if you're looking in the mirror and you're like, I mean, I look thinner, but I don't look strong, I don't look sculpted, yeah, chances are you've just been losing muscle. And this is why metrics matter. And different metrics for different people at different points of their journey. What I like to use are not just weight, that's kind of irrelevant, that's very contextual, body fat percentage, which is a specific component of your weight. Tape measurements so I can see where muscle is going, I can see where fat is kind of coming off, so to speak, progress photos, and I like to look at habits as well. So how consistent are you in drinking 4 liters of water a day? And yes, if you live in Singapore and you're active, it needs to be at least 4 liters. Don't talk to me if you're not getting 4 liters. Like, that's just your buy-in. That's your starting point. It's not $500 in poker chips. It's 4 liters of water every day. Okay. So I also like to look at habits. How consistent are you with your habits? Sleep, hydration, protein intake, activity levels, step count, etc., etc., etc. So intermittent fasting can have a time and place, can, when intelligently applied to the right person in the right circumstances, yield some change and can be helpful for digestive purposes. Outside of that, chances are you're losing muscle. You just don't know it because you've not looked at your body fat percentage. So you can have lost 10 kilos of muscle and still have the same amount of, like, percentage wise, you could still have the same percentage of body fat, right? So you're not really getting leaner, you're just losing muscle, and that's not good, especially because muscle is so hard to build and really hard to keep, and that only becomes more challenging as we get older. You want to go out of your way to keep as much muscle mass as possible and build on top of that by doing resistance training and getting a lot of protein in your diet. 1.5 grams per kilo of what you weigh. We already went over that, okay? So intermittent fasting, again, with the right person in the right circumstances, can be helpful for digestive purposes. I'm not going to go too much into that because that deserves its own conversation, but chances are you're losing muscle, and this is why metrics matter. You need to measure your body fat percentage, and that way we ensure we're losing body fat with a caloric deficit and sufficient protein intake, rather than just cutting ourselves down to an 8-hour eating window, in which it's pretty hard to eat enough protein in an 8-hour window, because protein is so flipping filling and so satiating that you're not going to feel like you have the appetite to eat that much in such a condensed time frame and window. That's really important to mention. And the last reason I want to highlight, chances are you're not seeing progress because you won't let yourself see progress. You're too busy being a judgmental bitch towards yourself that you just won't let yourself see the progress that you've made. Again, I see this all the time in the women I train. They get on the scales, they've lost weight, and they look at me and they say, nothing's changed. Nothing has shifted. I am this, it's the same. I'm like, it's not the same. You've lost 3 centimeters off your waist. You've lost a kilo. You've lost 3% body fat, 3.5% body fat in a week. It's not the same. And yet they sit there like, nothing's happened. Nothing's changed. Well, honey buns, if you're determined to be an asshole towards yourself, you shouldn't expect anything to change. Why? Because you won't let yourself see change. I mean, who would have thunk it, huh? It goes without saying, but it does also need to be said a number of times because it just takes so long for it to sink in, right? It takes time for you to see yourself differently. It tends to be a 2-year delay between you changing and you seeing the change. That is a long ass time because most people can't stick at anything for 2 years. I luckily have amazing clients who I've trained for more than 2 years, who have stuck with me for more than 2 years, who've been consistent for more than 2 years. But a lot of people haven't. A lot of people cannot say that. So, you need to remember there is a delay between you evolving, evolving and changing as a person and physically as well, and actually seeing the change. It can be 2 years. That's a long time. It feels like a long time in the micro. In the grand scheme of things, if you live to be 80, 90, 100, that's not long at all. But we lose that perspective. We think we need to lose 10 kilos now because we're uncomfortable in our own skin and we're uncomfortable with our own self-judgment. And so we're quick to want to escape that. We're quick to want to do something to nip that in the bud so we don't have to feel our clothes getting tighter and the need to buy bigger clothes. And we don't like how we look in photos. We don't like that angle. We don't want to be hiding our stomachs when we pose. We want to make sure we always get captured at the right angle. And all the angles are right because you are perfect, whole, and complete as you are. And we can also want to improve ourselves at the same time. Nothing wrong with that. My point being, if you've trained your eye to only see faults, you will only see fault, and thus you will never feel like you've gotten anywhere. The change occurs when you let yourself see change. People are very quick to say, oh yeah, I feel really motivated when I see change. No shit, Sherlock. It should be motivating. Yeah, but again, if you look at every single thing you've ever done with a critical eye and you are quick to tear yourself apart and you are if you are so the opposite of whatever a cheerleader is, if you are like Debbie Downer, little miss tear herself apart, you stand no chance of ever making consistent change and yielding those long-term adjustments and changes to your body composition. Just no chance, because you will rip yourself to shreds before you get to celebrate whatever it is. And so with the work I do with my amazing clients, I always look for something to celebrate. And sometimes it's turning up, and sometimes it's half a kilogram, and sometimes it's a centimeter, and sometimes it's half a centimeter, and sometimes it's turning up. And I reiterate turning up because you can't achieve anything else if you don't turn up. Again, a lot of people are quick to quit right before they see that change because they think they should have already seen the change. You're not entitled to results. The world doesn't owe you results. Your results reflect your efforts 99% of the time. Yes, there is the odd occasion where someone has some weird, rare genetic condition where they may have hypothyroidism, where they may have a rare blood disorder, where there may be very different circumstances. Okay, let's not rule that out, though. By and large, your results reflect your efforts. You're not entitled to results. Where you are right now with your health and fitness, that's what you've worked for. That's reflective of your efforts. You don't deserve bigger, better efforts. If you want bigger, better efforts, you need to put in bigger and better efforts into getting bigger and better results. So you don't have a leg to stand on and complain about not having better results if you've not been consistent, and if you've not applied yourself, and if you've not problem solved. Too bad, guys. Like, just too bad. Okay, the world doesn't owe you results. I'll leave you with that. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. If you have anything you'd like me to answer for you personally, reach out to me directly. I will get back to you on Instagram. I'm at Team Laura Phillips. Phillips is PHILLIPS. I appreciate you for watching. This will be turned into a podcast, so make sure you keep your eyes and ears out for that. And I look forward to seeing you in the next live. If you have a suggestion for my next topic, let me know. I want to talk about what you want to hear about. If you are just joining in now, make sure you go back to the start and watch this again. I appreciate you. I needed this. Someone just commented on Instagram. I needed this. Thank you. You are most welcome. What did you need? What do you need to hear more of? Let me know. Comment. Let me know. But yeah, again, 7 surprising reasons why you're not losing weight, even when you're in a caloric deficit. I'll just recap in case you're new, in case you're just joining us now. 7 surprising reasons, which is not surprising for me most of the time. You may not actually be in a caloric deficit. You think you are, but you're not. You're not accurately logging your food. You're using MyFitnessPal, which is horrendous. Use Chronometer instead. CRONOMETER. It has to be approved by a government body. All the food in the database. God, I don't know which accent to go with today. My mom's Canadian, my dad's Australian. I grew up in Australia, but I'm surrounded by Brits, and I'm in Singapore. It's a melting pot, so different accents come out at different times, guys. Thanks for putting up with that. In the database of Chronometer, everything has to be checked by a government body. You don't have random additions to the database. Not just anyone can add whatever they like. So that is always a really, really handy thing, especially when it comes to accuracy. So I'm just going to take a photo of this profile because I want to make sure I get back to people. Bear with me. So chances are you're not actually in a caloric deficit. Chances are you're not in a caloric deficit. How do you know? Well, yeah, use something like Chronometer. It's the tool I use with my clients. Make sure you're logging as consistently as possible, as accurately as possible, ensuring you're using the right weight as well, volume for food. So you get kitchen scales and actually weigh out your food. Make sure you use cooked rather than raw, or always be consistent in using the raw version versus cooked, because different macros. When we cook meat, especially, it condenses by 20 to 25%. So make sure you're always saying, cooked beef mince or cooked chicken breast, skinless, those details actually matter. If you're just starting to log food, then just get into the habit. If you've been doing it for a while, work on improving your accuracy. That's just my suggestion there. You may be in a deficit Monday to Friday, but then Saturday, Sunday, you're kind of eating all those calories in the weekend. So you're then actually net even, or you're in a surplus even. So look at how you're eating Monday through to Friday and how you're eating on the weekend. If you're in a deficit Monday through to Friday, but then you're even, Steven, or in a surplus Saturday, Sunday, then you're not going to move the needle if you want to get leaner. And if you want to lose body fat, then you really still have to be mindful on the weekend. You can't just, be on plan, quote unquote, on plan when you want to and off plan when you want to, and just hope it works out. That's not a strategy. Another reason, stress. Yeah, stress. Inflammation, your body's ability to deal with inflammation, to recover, is going to be hindered when you're chronically stressed. So make sure that you are managing stress with sleep, mindfulness, breathing, all go a long way in improving that. When you're logging food, make sure you're logging your snacks and your liquids. So your smoothies with avocado, 2 bananas, half a jar of peanut butter, and 5 tablespoons of honey and a partridge in a pear tree is going to add up over the course of a week, a month, a year. Log your drinks, log your snacks. the spoonful of peanut butter here, the handful of chips there, it all adds up. So again, if you're just starting to log food, just get into the routine, get into the habit. Then if you've been doing it for a while, try and improve your accuracy. That would be my suggestion there. Blood work doesn't lie, and getting tested for ferritin is super important, especially if you've had multiple surgeries, if you've delivered. So if you're a woman, you've had multiple pregnancy or even one pregnancy. 75% of women in their third trimester are low in ferritin. If you don't know what your ferritin levels are, get tested this week, this month. I don't care. Just go get tested. Ferritin, stored iron. Your blood work will test serum iron, kind of irrelevant, as well as your red blood cell count and volume. Usually that's fine. That can even be fine whilst having low ferritin. That was the case with me. My RBC, red blood cell count, was okay. My serum iron was okay. My ferritin was damn low. That's going to hinder your results. You won't have as much energy to put into your training. You're going to feel out of breath really quickly. You might even get dizzy. You might feel giddy. If you're not able to push yourself in the gym, you're not able to build muscle. And if you want to get lean and toned and sculpted, you're going to need some damn muscle. Okay, so that is worth mentioning. And other nutritional deficiencies or things such as conditions such as hypothyroidism can interfere with your rate of weight loss and fat loss. Having routine blood work is super insightful, super handy. Make sure you're up to speed with that. If not, that was your kick up the bum. That was your reminder. In terms of not being able to see changes on the scales, what else comes to mind is just not letting yourself see progress. If you're determined to always be a judgmental asshole towards yourself, you will never see change. You will never see results. That's just how it is. So ask yourself, when do you celebrate your success? What does success look like to you? Some days it's turning up. Some days it's doing a personal best on your back squats. It's adding 5 kilos to the bar in a back squat. Sometimes it's swapping out fries for vegetables. Sometimes it's going to a work event and not drinking alcohol. Success can look different people, different stages in life, different situations. There's no one way to define that. But my point being, if you've trained your eye to only see failures and to only be critical, you'll never be successful in any area of your life. And it begs the question, why? What do you get out of being an asshole to yourself? Not progress. No, you never make progress by being an asshole towards yourself. Because if that were the case, you would have made a lot more progress by now. Don't you think? Don't you think if that was the key to making progress, you would have made progress by now? Clearly, being an asshole towards yourself is not the portal to success and not the portal to feeling successful. That is worth mentioning. And people doing intermittent fasting, oh my God, you're probably losing muscle, not fat. You need 2 things to lose fat: caloric deficit and sufficient protein intake. Sufficient protein being 1.5 grams per kilo of what you weigh. If you're 60 kilograms, that looks like 90 grams of actual protein every single day, not 90 grams of chicken breast, 90 grams of actual protein. And that kind of ties in with the whole consistency thing. So your body likes homeostasis, it likes predictability, it likes to know what it's getting in terms of nutrients at what point of time in the day. So when you're getting water, how much water are you drinking? When you're getting protein, vitamins, minerals, your body likes that predictability. It makes it easier for your body to allocate all that energy so that it's not going to end up, needing a lot of energy but having none. So being regular with wake up time, go to bed, when you drink water, how much water you drink, when you eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, when you snack, when you move, exercise, get sunlight exposure, that goes a long way in helping your body be regular in energy levels, regular in digestion, regular in cognitive performance. And that makes it easy to lose weight and lose fat because your body likes that predictability. Your body likes to be able to plan what it can do based on what you give it. When you're in a regular asshole towards yourself, your body despises you. So your body doesn't like going to bed at 2 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Your body doesn't like being dehydrated because you had too much alcohol on Saturday morning. Your body doesn't like starving because you decided you were going to not eat on Monday because you ate too much on the weekend. Your body doesn't like that, all right? If your body could talk to you, it would be saying this. It'd be like, asshole, stop. Just no. Just enough, okay? So let me give your body a voice and let me tell you what it's trying to communicate to you. It hates you. because you're inconsistent and you're irregular. So maybe do it a favor and tick those boxes and get really consistent and good at when you drink water, when you eat, how much you eat, when you go to bed, when you wake up, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so they're kind of obvious things, but people forget the importance of that. And when it comes to losing weight and losing fat, the body is not going to do it like this. It's not a straight line. It is hover, 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 drop. And that drop is your body then getting used to the new normal, the quote unquote new normal, regulating, going, oh, okay, this is what I do now. This is how I do it. I feel okay. That feels okay. And then drop, and so on and so forth. So unless you've plateaued and not seen any change for 8 to 12 weeks and you've been consistent for 8 to 12 weeks, don't get upset. You don't deserve change. You have to work for it. And when I say work for it, you need to be consistent. And when I say consistent, I mean doing something more often than what you don't. You know, if there's 7 days in a week, you need to do something 3.5, 4 times a week, because that's more often than not. That's more than 50% of the time. Consistent is more than 50% of the time. So get to 50% of the time, then try and get to 60, then try and get to 70. But y'all have a really weird definition of consistent. You think like once a week this week, 4 times a week next week, 2 times a week the week after, 0 times next month. That is not consistent, my friends. Sometimes doing something is not consistent. Consistent is at least 50% of the time, 90% of the time. Okay? It's at least 50% of the time, 90% of the time. That is consistency. And anything above that also. But I think we need to ascertain that is the baseline. Anything less than that is not consistent. Don't get upset by results you didn't see from being inconsistent. You have no leg to stand on. And that is the end of this TED Talk. Mic drop. Thank you. Again, any questions, leave them in the comments. If you are watching on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, find me on Instagram at Team Laura Phillips, PHILLIPS. If you're watching on Instagram, go back, watch the full thing. This will be posted to my feed. This will also be a podcast. If you're up to speed with my podcast, keep your eyes and ears out for that. It's Laura Phillips, Real Talk. Shouldn't be surprised by that name. And I look forward to seeing you in the next live. Send me your suggestions for the next one. I want to talk about what you want to hear about. So let me know what you want me to talk about. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much.